Tiffany just went through something heavy. A breakup, a disappointment, a life-changing event. Whatever it was, she's hurting. And instead of actually sitting with her emotions, she runs to the salon. She dyes her hair, feels a little rush, feels new, and then 3 days later, she feels empty again. So she dyes it again, chasing that temporary hit of happiness. Now she's stuck in a cycle. New hair, same problems. Then you have Ruth. Ruth feels the same pain, but instead of trying to reinvent herself every 2 weeks, she grabs a journal. She actually writes out her emotions. She makes a plan. She realizes she can't control everything in life, but she can control how she chooses to respond. Ruth understands something Tiffany doesn't. Constantly dyeing your hair isn't healing. It's self-sabotage disguised as self-care. Here's the thing nobody talks about. Dyeing your hair does give you a temporary high. That's because whenever you're dyeing your hair or doing something dramatic or impulsive, your brain releases dopamine. So dopamine is the feel-good chemical. That's the same hit you get whenever you're going on a shopping spree or impulsively about to text an ex. But dopamine highs are short-lived. That's why whenever you dye your hair, you feel happiness for like a little moment, maybe a couple of days. You're just like feeling your hair, you're feeling yourself, but then it eventually wears off because the dopamine wore off. Your problems aren't gonna magically disappear just because you colored your hair. Trust me, I know. I used to dye my hair different colors, get extensions, I don't know, wear contacts. I used to do all these things to try to change my appearance because I didn't want to face what was truly bothering me. I didn't want to work on myself. I just wanted to become a new person. And that instability messes with you mentally. So I did my research, and psychologists call this identity shifting. And it's when you avoid fixing your internal self by trying to reinvent your external self. And basically what they said is that your mind eventually gets tired because you keep resetting yourself instead of growing. When I was doing my research, I was reading that the studies were showing that inconsistency in your appearance starts to show inconsistency in every aspect of your life. And I was like, no wonder I wasn't getting a lot of stuff done, and I was being so inconsistent. I would just drop things. I had like business ideas and they would start going up, and then I would just kind of drop it because I was so inconsistent with my appearance. I literally looked different every other month. And I read that when I was consistently changing my appearance so much, my brain read it as chaos. So every single time I would try to do something, I would feel like such a weird feeling of instability. I couldn't really be consistent with anything. If you're feeling this way, let me tell you what worked for me. Whatever I was feeling, any type of emotion, whatever I was going through at the time, I started journaling. I also started going to the gym. So I would work out, and all of that negative energy, all of those negative emotions I felt, I put them all into the gym. So instead of avoiding what I was avoiding, which was, I don't know, let's say you're avoiding, you don't like your job, so you want to start a business or something, and you're avoiding that thought. Instead of actually taking action, and instead of actually changing as a person, actually becoming who you want to be, actually striving for that thing that you want, instead of avoiding it by dyeing your hair, you actually go get it. Trust me, as someone that's dealt with this, you can't heal a wound with a new hair color, okay? You have to actually face what you're trying to escape. And I was trying to escape my reality by dyeing my hair every no, I'm not gonna lie, I would dye it every couple of weeks. Yeah, I spent a lot of money. I checked my bank account and it was like, I don't know, I would say 600 every 2 weeks on like different hair, sometimes 1,000. So trust me, I know. And now I haven't dyed my hair in over a year, and I've been the most consistent. My mental health has improved because I don't feel like I'm a different freaking person every month, every time I dye my hair, every time I do something different. And I've been more consistent in every single thing in my life, and I've grown so much. I've evolved as a person, and instead of escaping my reality, I'm actually making a plan and working towards my goals and what I want to do. And all of those things that I was doing that would affect me in a negative way, I stopped doing them because obviously it was affecting me in a negative way where I felt like I needed to change myself. I realized the difference between dyeing your hair to feel good and dyeing your hair because you feel good. There's a difference. If you're dyeing your hair because you want to feel good, you want to feel something in that moment, then you're using it in a negative way. But if you're dyeing it because, oh my gosh, I feel so good. Like, I just want something new, something fresh. Like, you need to learn the difference. And it takes some time to know the difference because you don't see it as like self-sabotage in the moment and you don't really feel emotions. But when I, like, for example, the other day I went to the hair shop or whatever to go buy hair dye for my mom. And I was like, wow, what if I were to dye my hair right now? But I viewed the thought instead of actually taking action on the thought, because I didn't actually want to dye my hair. I think it was just like out of boredom that I wanted to dye it, but I honestly didn't really care to dye it like that. But then I was like, wait, it would actually be kind of fun if I dyed my hair. But I'm like, no, like I worked this hard to get healthy hair. I'm not gonna go and dye it again. I noticed that when I started working on myself, I literally started glowing more. I started being happier. I found my purpose. I found what I wanted to do in life. And I started going to the gym. I started getting healthy. I started loving my body more. Everything that I would do was for my internal self. And my external self started showing it because I was just happier, more glowy. So make sure that you're working on yourself. Make sure that you're loving yourself internally before you start doing anything externally. But yeah, I hope this video helped. And remember, guys, your future self is watching. So make sure you don't let her down.